Hello, welcome to Blender. My name is Alex Cordabard. When you first open up Blender, you might be a little bit overwhelmed. It's kind of like walking into the cockpit of an airplane, seeing all these buttons everywhere and wondering, what do I push? And so you start pushing everything, you start clicking everything, and before you know it, either nothing happens or all hell breaks loose. So that's why I'm here, to help you navigate and guide you through the very basics of Blender all the way to the more advanced things. So let's start with the very basics, and let's take a look at what it is that we have here in front of our face. Well, this is the standard viewport that happens when you open up Blender, and yes, there's buttons everywhere, and what do I click on and everything. Let's start with the very basics. This right here, this window, is called the 3D viewport. And this is where the majority of the things that you're going to be doing are going to happen. This is where you're going to be modeling. This is where you're going to be animating, texturing. So this is a truly all-important window, and we're going to have some fun here. You can see in the 3D viewport we have our cube, we have a camera, and we also have a lamp. Now, this right here is a tool shelf, and this basically gives you additional options to manipulate your 3D scene and your objects. For now, we don't need it, so we're going to go ahead and close it with the T key. You can also see in our 3D viewport we have a grid floor, and so this is basically going to be the 3D space where we're going to manipulate objects and do lots of awesome things. Now, going to the bottom of our window, you can see we have another window here, and this one is called the timeline. This is where the time or the frames are going to be moving. As you can see, as I'm scrolling here, the numbers are changing, and this is how your objects are going to be animated, by giving it the illusion of movement. So for example, your cube will be here at frame 5, and then at frame 81 we will move it to the left or to the right. And then as you scroll through the timeline or the time frames, it will give the illusion of movement. So this too is truly an important window for animating. Now if we go to the bottom left, you can see that right here we could actually change what we have displayed. So right now it's set to timeline. As for right here, you can see it's set to 3D view. And of course you could change it to whatever you want. We could put a timeline here if we wish. Now, like I said, the 3D viewport is the most used window for the most part, and so we want a big space in our 3D view because we're going to be using it a lot. So this is perfect. Over here we have the properties. As you can see, properties is selected, and this gives you more options and more properties to manipulate further your scene. So we have the render tab, which is where you're going to be rendering your scene to a final image or an animation. You have all the presets and everything. We have other tabs such as materials to add materials, and modifiers to add. Modifiers are basically, they modify your object and change them in certain ways. So here you have a whole arsenal of different tools to manipulate your scene. We'll get into that a little bit later. At the top we have another window called the outliner. Now this one basically outlines what you have in your 3D scene. So we can see camera, cube, and lamp. So as the name implies, it gives you an outline of what you have. So that's pretty much how it is. We've sectioned it off into 4 windows. We have the outliner, the properties, the timeline, and the 3D viewport. So now it might not seem as overwhelming, and we're going to do something even more to simplify it with our mouse over the 3D viewport. Let's go ahead and hit Shift, Tab, close everything else out, and focus 100% on the 3D viewport. So that's the layout, and that's the different viewports that we have when starting Blender off. Alright, let's wrap up this tutorial on a positive note. I don't know if you've ever heard of the 80-20 rule, but it says that it's about 80% mindset, 20% skill set. So let's wrap it up on a positive note, both for Blender and for life in general. So the quote goes as follows: "Creation begins with imagination. We were told as kids to stop imagining, stop daydreaming. We were told to stop using the fairy power that creates everything. Imagination isn't some made-up thing you create in your mind. It is creation. Start using your creative imagination once more. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next tutorial.